Beast Smitty Lurkers. Are you listening to this on the podcast? If you are, I'm sorry. You're probably wondering, where have I been? Um, and basically where I've been is just slacking. It's basically, I think this year was kind of weird. I think with just the platforms and like where I was, my direction, and I think things just stalled out. And, you know, what's weird is the podcast was actually going pretty well and download rates were well. But then I started focusing more on video and uh, yeah, so I think I was kind of going back and forth on what I was even doing, and I think I've pretty much figured out that I just need to do the thing, if that makes any sense, um, and not overthink. And since I do operate myself, I think there's times where I have to make certain decisions. There's times where uh, I might uh, over project what I can do, and and then I'll just like kind of like it's not that like I let myself down. It's more so like I know I can do better, and I think it's a lot of just executing my my process. Um, I think the creative process for me is nonstop. I think it's just being better at documenting that creative process. Um, I let I let outside things get in the way. Um, there's a great quote which I'm going to pull out right now. To I posted on my Instagram. My Instagram's at bsubmitted.com. If you don't follow me yet. This mic's kind of. I think the mic was like in focus last video, so I'm trying to not make that happen again. It is essential for you to remember that the attention you give to any action should be in due proportion to its worth, for then you won't tire and give up. If you aren't busying yourself with lesser things beyond what should be allowed. I think that's something that's insanely appropriate for my life. I think I was letting this year has been a crazy year. A lot of great things has happened, and a lot of it has taken up an insane amount of time. Because as we all have our personal lives on top of our creative process, and um, but I was letting my attention go way too much into things that don't matter. And if they matter, I was doing too much attention. I think that's kind of the whole point of that quote is if it to not dwell. It's not even. I guess dwelling would be a right word, but not like drawing out an issue when it's done. Like if something's done, it's done. You move on. Or if you have something that you're working on that's not part of the process, and it's an outside source, to not let it be more take up more time than what it's worth. And that's really what I've been focusing on the past few weeks here. I know, like, from at least my, from because I'm a person that likes to. I'm always, with documenting and distributing online. I do a decent amount of consuming as well. I've narrowed it down to very little amount of people, and I try to kind of focus on like yeah. I mean, I focus on myself, but I do pay attention to what people are doing on social media, and kind of mapping out how I want to put my work out there, and I think I still I'm doing an okay job. I don't want to like just be like, oh yeah, I'm just down in the dumps because I'm not posting as much as I feel like I should be. But it is something that is I'm passionate about, and I believe I can do better at is um, getting getting the work out there. Just distributing, and like I have a crazy log of photos that just still needed to be looked at, let alone edited, um, and put out there. I'm really excited for this winter to be honest, I had a different game plan of how I was going to attack this winter, with certain photo ideas. But to be honest, I think I'm going to cut that back extremely, probably about 80%. Like a massive cutback of my idea of even as much as I was going to shoot is to actually do the work after the fact of shooting. I did shoot a lot this year, and I am excited that I did get quite a bit done. There was times where I didn't get as much as I would like that, but that'll always be the case. I think that's just how my brain works, with the amount that I'm shooting. I always feel like it could be more, or I wish I could do a trip, or I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that. No matter what I'm doing, I feel like there's always going to be something in my mind like, oh, I wish I could have done that too. That's never going to end, but I think that's a part of my just that's how my brain works. Um, I'm always just pushing myself. Even back when I was skateboarding and making my film Bipolar, I was working closely with people who had full video parts, and it was a big process, and that's kind of I saw what other people can do, and I would push them to their limit of even when they're skateboarding. Um, and I think that's kind of that kind of did, is a good time period for that with the people around me at that time to it was such an early time. I guess I'm like thinking of as I'm saying it with like in 2005 is really the beginning of things kind of starting to happen with like online presence. Like that was really early time with like having a profile on a platform or whatever it would be, and that was like the kind of like the beginning of me knowing because I'm credited in Bipolar as Brian Smith. Beast Media wasn't even invented yet. So I brought it out. It was released December of 2005, but I had already knew that I was switching a thing, but it wasn't up yet, so I didn't put it as a credit. But it was January 1st, beastmedia.com was launched of 2006. So I knew that I was up to something. I knew that. I mean, I had made videos before VHS edited, so I'll get into that whole another whole thing another time. But I knew there was something up, and and that's why I think still this to this day I think that same way. Which that leads to this video. Um, Trust the pancakes. That sounds insane, but I kind of that's a thing I've been thinking about lately. Is working with a lot of people and hearing what people say, and even like not even people I see in person, but like reading things on Facebook and yeah, just like what uh, yeah, just like people talking about other people opinions, what their thought process in life, and all those things has made me think about pancakes. And the reason I think about pancakes is I think about myself eating pancakes when it was probably about 12 years ago or so, around that time. I had no money, no car, no phone, lived in a studio apartment, and I worked at a job that I walked to. And I worked at a skate shop. So I was working two jobs to basically just afford the studio apartment and camera stuff. But the camera stuff then was developing film, which would cost, I don't quite remember. I want to say it was like $8, maybe 7, somewhere around that range. And always get it developed at Walgreens because they seem to be the quickest. Because I would go there and I'd wait for it. So like that's a classic 1 hour photo time, but you'd take it to a place and they'll say it'll take a couple hours. So they already have other film that Walgreens always seemed like they were like on point with the whole 1 hour photo. So that's where I would go, and I was shooting a lot then, so it costs a lot of money just to shoot photos, which is why I think I don't take digital for granted. It's the greatest thing that's happened to photography, um, and it's it's a privilege to have a camera like they have out today. Even on if you have an iPhone and you're taking pictures, it's a privilege to have. It really is like how insane it is to be able to photograph whenever you want at no cost is pretty crazy. Especially like knowing how it was like shooting. Just so even if you just want to shoot pictures for fun, it costs you money every time you took a picture. So the reason this goes back to trust the pancakes, this is kind of a long intro, which if you know me, I'm good at rambling, is the at that time I had, no money really. I spent it when I got it because I needed to get the next thing, the next roll of film. I didn't, I was saving up for a computer. I was doing all these things because I was, at some point I did end up getting a digital camera, which was in 2005, Christmas 2005. So everything happened then. Like beastmedia.com happened because I got a digital camera at, in December before that. So it was literally, I knew I was getting a digital camera. I knew I was gonna have a website. That's what I was saving up for. That was what I was doing. So as many living, the paycheck to paycheck, barely getting by, scraping by, making it happen. I'm not having a phone. Basically, I did have a phone, but it was pay for minutes. So sometimes I would be able to make calls. Sometimes I wouldn't. I'd go to the local Best Buy and buy like the cheapest card. I think that maybe it was even $5, but I think it might have been $10 card. Um, so like so I do that at time to time. So I know a lot of times I didn't even have it working, which was fine by me at that point because it wasn't normal to have it wasn't cell phones were around obviously, but it wasn't like it is today. And um, the whole point of Trust the Pancakes is I was I had no money to the point where I lived off pancakes for probably about at least 6 months. I would buy just the jugs of pancake mix because it was basically from when I went to the store I realized it was for the amount that you get and what you would eat and like not be hungry. That's like was the best thing I can get, and that's what I lived on. But insanely, well, I had no money eating pancakes. I had I knew where I was going. I knew I was going to end up, you know, owning businesses, doing what I wanted to do, not having a boss. Like that was my goal. It's always been my goal. I've never liked the idea of a boss. I've always noticed that you can it's up to you to not have a boss. I mean, obviously everyone has their own situations and people aren't cut out to be one. But everyone has an opportunity. Even that, I feel like that was such a early thing for me to think of. I think I just knew from work at the skate shop, and a special shout out to Jason Ellison. He basically ran a skate shop slash motocross shop called Speed Freaks, and basically it was like, here's the order forms for boards, decks, wheels, everything that you need to order, and he would let me do orders. And I learned very early on like what it's like. Okay, things cost this, you sell for this, and then I was like, well, what if we did this, make this price different, and then that would actually attract people to do this. And then like it was such a weird moment for me that like this is like what I like doing. This is I know I can do this with photography. Like I think everything kind of leads can be an example for something else. Um, and uh, so to kind of get back where I was with the pancake situation is I wouldn't even call them goals. It's not a goals. Maybe I mean I guess maybe you can just call them dreams. Like I had, it was like I wanted to be at a point, but it's not some stupid thing where it's like I want to have a gajillion bajillion dollars by the age of this 27 or something. Like that's gonna get you nowhere. That's a terrible way to think. For me, I just knew I was gonna be at a point where didn't want where I can work for myself. I think that's like I knew I was gonna do my own thing, and but that like I was 100% I was doing that, but I had no money in eating pancakes for 6 months straight. Um, so and I think now, especially like when I right now is in such insane life compared to myself at that time. There's so many more opportunities. You can literally start a business just from your phone. You can make money off your phone. It's such a simple thing where like, it's it's not even to like really start your business. If you're like really wanting to have like, say, if like I really wish I had the money to paint all day, every day when I'm not at work or not doing this. But the paint I want costs a lot of money. Canvases, if I'm, if a canvas costs me $20 a piece, that can only, it costs money to do these things. And I think the main thing I want everyone to, watching this, if even if it's not the stream of like I want to work for myself, if it's something like I really wish I would paint more or whatever blank you are doing that costs money that you think that I just can't afford to maintain, that is to figure out how to make it happen, because you don't want to be older and be like, I wish I would have been painting the past 20 years. Not that much of a bummer that sounds, like 20 years of like I could have had fun painting and have some paintings on the wall, give paintings to my friends, give paintings to my family. Like such a I think me, I'm such a time person. Time is my most valuable thing. I hate when my time's wasted. Um, and I know, like for me, I'm definitely a person that knows what he wants to do, and everyone has different personalities, and that's I think that's the hardest thing. I think is to know what someone else's personality is like. Such like a lot of people are real. They think the worst. Some people think the best. To me, I take care of a situation and move on. Obviously, some things might take longer than others, and that's kind of why I wanted to say that quote in this video, because I caught myself wasting like literally wasting time. Like I could have made a quick video. I could have cut some time out of me sitting down thinking about something that really didn't need my time, and that's kind of where I'm going at too with if you're in a rut, even if it's not even like something like trying to get some more money for something, because I feel like if you need more money for something, I think the best way to do it is to figure out how you need to work to make that happen. Whether it's I need to uh, work a second job, or I need to, hey, I can sell some things to make that extra money to buy this thing. It's such a simple way to like making money has never been easier. It's never been easier. Obviously, if you're needing a ton of money, that's one thing. But honestly, say if like your goal is to I need $50 extra a month to do this hobby, you can you can probably find the things around your house to sell like to get you started. I think that's the main thing too. Like I do it myself. If I'm not using a product for a while, like say if like I'm not using these cords, anymore because I have a couple pairs. This one will do fine. I don't need the longer cable. Well, that cable can go for $15 on eBay. It's either I don't use the long cables much and I sell it for $15, and now I have $15. I think there's a lot of that can happen. A lot of it too is going, taking the few bucks or $10 that you could spare at like a Goodwill or Salvation Army, buy some stuff, flip it on eBay. There's a lot of ways to kind of make that happen. And I'm kind of giving these examples because that's kind of like how I was living, and that's why I like trust the pancakes. That's such a simple thing for me to kind of to look back at is, the opportunities that we have now, you know, things that we're doing now that wasn't didn't even exist when I was living in that studio apartment. And if I felt like if I could find a way now, I could find, or if I could find a way then, I can find a way now. And I feel like this is definitely something I feel like a lot of people can put into perspective in the sense of like, if I want to move forward with this creative thing, how can I do it, and what do I need to do it? Do I need that second job? Do I need this? Do I need that? Do I need to sell this? Do I may need to cut back? I think that's a huge thing that could be easily assessed. Businesses do that. They go over, all right, yeah, the profits aren't really where they should be. Where can we cut back to help that profit? Personally, we can all do that. Say if you go to the grocery store, you spend X amount of dollars, and you're kind of needing some extra funds for whatever. Do you need to spend that X amount of dollars? Is it 100% you have to, or things are going to be the worst? Or can you cut back $40 on your grocery list? These are very simple things that I think it's so easy to like look over though, because it is like this is my habit. This I go to the grocery store, I spend this amount of money, and I've been doing it for this long, or this is how my mom did it, or my dad did it, or whoever did it. So this is why I do it. I think the grocery store is the number one way to cut back. Obviously, if people have habits like smoking or anything, that's a whole nother beast. But very simple things, and I'm trying not to make this like a really weird video about like money and stuff like that, but I think it's just more like from what I hear and from like on the money standpoint, and I talk to a lot of younger people, whether they're trying to get another, or trying to get move out of their parents or buy a house, buy a car, even having their own phone, like, and it's very simple things, but at the same time they're so crucial. Like if you're at a position where you're like that, like I you know I could have said, I'm just gonna it, it's like putting things in perspective in a weird way. You know what I mean? Of like, okay, I need to do this. If I want to be a photographer and start a website, I need to eat these pancakes. I think that's basically what it was. And it's just with like how it is. Like, I had X amount of dollars for my two jobs, and I had these bills to do. I had this, that. And so my decision was moving forward with my creative process is the most important thing, because I knew that would lead to the next thing I needed to do. To do that, I can't spend that much money at all. So that's where the pancakes came in. That's why I looked at the store. What made most sense? What would make me not hungry? But I still had money to upgrade what I needed to upgrade to create whatever in my brain that I needed. And then that led to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And I think that's an exercise. I think that's kind of to wrap this all together. I hope that whole rambling kind of thing made some sense. I think it's just an overall look of what you're doing, what you're. I don't even really like calling them dreams. Dreams are goals. I mean, I guess I knew what I wanted, so I guess let's call them dreams. If if you know what you want, because for me it's not like it's always going to be a dream. I wrote down yesterday that, and that's what I wrote down yesterday is what motivated this video today. Is that I've been thinking about myself over a decade ago eating pancakes and thinking about my dreams. No matter what happens today, it doesn't matter because I'm living my dreams. I think that's kind of how everyone should think, you know, moving forward. And I hope this video kind of got you hyped up a little bit to kind of maybe do a good look of kind of what your situation is and what you're actually wanting, and how you can step forward in the right direction. And I just want to thank you for watching this video. Subscribe if you haven't. It's youtube.com/bsmitty if you're listening to this on the podcast. And if you're on YouTube and you want to subscribe to the podcast, just search Be Smitty on the Apple Podcast app and you'll find me there.